Thank you for staying with us. One nation, great people. Talking about creating Nigeria for all. You know, all persons between the ages of 15 and 24, we call them youths, right? According to statistics, half of the people on this planet, Earth, this universe, not the multiverses, this one, are 30 or younger. And this is expected to, they're expected to reach about 57% by the end of the SDGs 2030. So every year, International Youth Day is observed on August 12th. That was yesterday. If it was your birthday as well, happy birthday. Now, the purpose of this day is to draw attention to a given set of cultural and legal issues surrounding youngsters. It also aims to raise awareness about the challenges and hardships faced by young people around the world, and Nigeria no less. Nigeria made room for youth representation in governance before independence. Recent decades have seen what you would call a tectonic shift from that reality. So how does this have anything to do with us this morning? Let's have a conversation with three gentlemen joining us today. Kingsley Obamegbulem is founder of the Talent Hub, and he is in the business of youth development. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thanks so much.
We also have a development consultant who is also a youth advocate, Oludari Akinlaja. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Nice to be here, sir.
And we will be having a third person join us virtually, and when he does join, we will introduce him to you. Well, let me begin with you, Mr. Akinlaja. Talking about creating Nigeria for all, we've heard that saying. I've heard it since I was in primary school. Youths are the leaders of tomorrow. In fact, I remember a song by Tosin Jegede. Parents, listen to your children. We are the leaders of tomorrow. I think that was in the 80s.
Well, it seems that tomorrow never came, right?
So, how true is that? Let me begin from there.
Well, I suspect, because these days you always have to put disclaimers in every statement so you are not quoted with some level of subjective. So I suspect the intention was to speak about the capacity of young people doing great things in the future with respect to, okay, you are 16 now. When you are 21, you might have graduated from the university when you were 24. You know, that, I'm sure that was the intention behind the statement, meaning sometime in the future, adding certain number of years to your years, you can be doing something great with your life. You can be. So I'm sure it was, and of course the song said children. Okay, so maybe she was singing to 6, 7, 8-year-olds
at the time.
At the time, okay, telling them, okay, there's a potential when you're 21, you can become a doctor. When you're 24, you can become a lawyer. So I guess in that context, the song was true, or the description was true. But just like any good thing or anything, some people will also take that and mean it's not your time. We are the one there. Wait till later. Even if you have the capacity, even if you have the competence, you know, even if you have the strength, but I'm sure that's what she meant. But of course, like every environment, every community, especially the African one, where we are very big on age, very big on respect, we're very good, you know. So people took advantage of that to say, wait, we're not done taking advantage of this environment.
But Kingsley, young people are doing great things around this country every day, especially in the area of technology. Why is it that we find it so difficult to allow them in positions of leadership, as in leading the country?
Yeah, I'm happy you said that, because I was going to situate your question properly, because political leadership is where we haven't created enough space for young people.
That's exactly what my question is asking.
Yeah, but if you look around, every country that has been developed were actually developed by their youth. I mean, cast your mind back. Everything that we celebrate today were either developed by young people, founded by young people, and to a large extent sustained by young people. The problem we have here is we are late starters, whether in politics, whether in sports, whether even in entertainment, whatever. We start late. And by the time we peak, it's also late. Late in the sense that we're peaking, the average superstar.
We're peaking in old age.
I wanted to ask
superstar.
My apologies. The question I wanted to ask you as a follow-up to the response of Mr. Akinlaja, which probably is another way of asking the same questions he asked is, while it is true that there was an intention to build the youth into that leadership tomorrow,
yes,
as the philosophy of that song says, do you think there was a plan or an intention, a deliberate intention, or any intention at all, to create structures for building the leaders of tomorrow as far back as then?
Well, if you look at the results and the outcomes we have today, the answer is an emphatic no. Now, look at the number of young people that are not within the formal system. When I mean formal system, I'm referring to sports, I'm referring to entertainment, I'm referring to education. Now, the areas where you have young people playing active role are the areas where they don't require approval to function. You get, so these are freelance areas where you can wake up tomorrow and say, I want to be a rap artist, and hey, you're rapping. And
there is no school of rap artists.
And then you have, to a large extent, sports. But you see, within the sports environment, there is some gatekeeping. You can be running and you're the fastest runner. As a matter of fact, this morning, I took my daughter trains in Agege Stadium, so I take her there every week. And her coach told me that Kenya is building a lot of outlets in javelin. And the Maasais in Kenya, they hunt wild animals with spears.
Yes.
That, sports science allows you to understand the comparative advantage within your environment and how you can leverage on that in sports and other areas. So the Maasais, javelin is something Kenya is going to be developing. So my point is, wherever you have strict gatekeeping, young people don't thrive there.
And why is that?
Because of bureaucracy and every other thing that is, quote and unquote, that is heavily Nigerian, that draws us back.
They do not want to be boxed in.
Yes.
But
sorry, Ewa.
Freedom. Freedom.
Yes.
Right?
But look at areas where you can wake up tomorrow and become a star. You can wake up this morning and the next day you are a star. See how young people are thriving there.
While I get that, the question that I want to ask you, Mr. Adelaja, is that to say that the establishment, I'm using that generically now.
The bane of youth development.
Okay, before we take it, let's quickly, bring on our third guest, who is joining us virtually from Abuja. Engineer Mohammed Onotu is founder, Productive Youth Network, and also founder, Read to Rise. Thanks for joining us this morning. Truly appreciate your time.
Morning.
Okay. Let me begin with you as well. I mean, you've heard us, raise issues with our guests in the studio. Youth are the leaders of tomorrow. Can you give us that date?
When is that tomorrow coming?
It's becoming more of an uncertainty. I think if we also look at the body language, we still have a significant level of hope if all the right foundation is being kept appropriately.
say that really there is, because the question that I was going to ask Mr. Akinlaja, just as well ask you, if you've been listening, I believe you've been following the conversation, would you say that there are structures deliberately prepared by the establishment to prepare young people for the leadership of tomorrow as promised many decades ago?
It's quite a tricky one. Because if we are to be specific 100%, there's a huge level of failure structure-wise. Then on the other side, because it goes hand in hand, as you have the system functioning, you also have the individuals that make up the bunch of youths. So when you look at the structure, it's supposed to create a level of platform in which the sustainability and the growth of the youth can thrive. But unfortunately, what we currently have in the state is that the structure, it might not necessarily be deliberate, but when you have a structure that is not vision driven, that does not care about what the future holds, but rather what is obtainable in the present, there is the tendency of having a faulty foundation, which I think is one of the things that the youth have actually been failed, because the structures have not been strategically prepared or kept on ground to foster the growth of an average Nigerian youth.
Well, isn't that to say that when you say it looks like there isn't vision, or structures that are not vision driven, that would put at the foot of government, wouldn't you say? Because there are those who would say, hey, as Mr. Obomegbelem said here a while ago, spheres where there are no controls, so to speak. A young man can just install Adobe Audition or SoundForge or Cubase on his laptop. He gets behind a microphone, sings to a beat, he becomes a star. He has a phone, he can, get a camera here and there, use his camera phone, produce a skit, he becomes a star. That's the story of one of Nigeria's comedians now, Wole Arole. All he did was use his phone, and he became widely known. So with those potential, those possibilities, I mean, I'm talking about the menial ones now, just in entertainment. I'm not going to technology, I'm not going to sports now. Is that to say that government isn't seeing the opportunities that these young people have to do things on their own without necessarily waiting? I mean, isn't it an opportunity that government can harvest?
It's a tricky one. Men would suffer because of lack of vision. Sometimes you assume that some of our leaders have the technical know-how, the foresight to recognize some of these opportunities. But what is apparent is what you don't have, you can literally give. So primarily, all our suffering emanates from competence deficiency. So what we need to do is to review those that we elect into leadership positions. Like I always say, is that unjust leadership definitely destroys generations. Then what is much more a greater threat is the followership that is devoid of sound intellect and manners. So when you have these two not aligning together, there's a tendency of having inconsistency in the growth chain. So what I think needs to be done, we know what is apparent is that for any generation to thrive, there is a need for good leadership, and good leadership comes with foresight, and foresight comes with competence. You see, none can function without the other. So the first is for us to review what are the competences that we need, that we require for us in electing every leadership position that we aspire to vote for. So this is the fundamentals that we need to take into consideration in order to take us to the first chain of visionary leadership that translates into recognizing opportunities across board. For the common man, regardless, you don't need to know anyone to be able to try. All you need to do is to have the competence, have the tendency to be able to grow, and also, most importantly, having a structure in the environment or in the society to help in facilitating the growth.
Mr. Akinlaja, let's segue into another angle,
Yeah.
unless you have one or two things to say to what
No,
we
no,
said.
I was just listening in on the political leadership part of it, and strangely, if you go to the offices of average politicians today, look at the people running the systems. Most of them are young people. The people telling them,
These assistants
could be aspirants, the special assistants, ones telling them how to think, preparing their documentations, telling them what their aids, what bills to push, what things to. So young people, I think that we also need to look at the balance of it. I think that young people, knowingly or unknowingly, have found their way into certain quarters. Either by the sheer providence, people not wanting them, but some way they find that, you know what, we can't do this thing without these people. It has become apparent they must be on this thing, because I don't know what's happening in fintech, I don't know what's happening in economy. These guys know what's happening from their phones. So
And that's where the phone. That's where the money is.
if we don't bring them in here, we're just joking. So whether by the what's happening in the environment or by providence, young people are finding their way into that space. And we must also be careful drawing total conclusions. Even in America, look at their Senate and their House of Reps. I'm just trying to say there is a let's see a bit of silver lining in all of this. Young people, more can be done based on our population, our number, and the human capacity that we have. More can be done. But I think that young people have said to themselves, you know what? We don't care who those gatekeepers are.
Look at the numbers, though. The numbers, the number of those within these spaces. Conversely, with the numbers of those who are not. The social media will give you an idea of what they. So that leads me to ask you: do you think that we are all, both those who are within and those who are without, the elders and everyone, do you think we are all conscious of the realities of young people who do not have so much advantage?
They know. In fact, that's why you see a lot of government officials now, state governments, doing a lot of entrepreneurship, SME. It's not sufficient, but they are aware. Okay, so they're trying to repaint the buildings and not take care of the foundation, obviously. Okay, but they are aware of.
So you hit it.
Of the chaos.
So what's the foundation?
Now, this is the foundation. The foundation is education. First of all, look at strike. Students have been at home for. Somebody sent me a message 2 days ago. I'm like, what are we going to do about this? Young people are now doing POS operators.
God.
Because they can. I'm like, he said, yes, it's chaotic. Shameful. Okay, so that's where the foundation is. How are young people educated? How are they trained?
That's the reason I asked that question, Mr. Obom Egbulem. Are we thinking about young people? That foundation of education is the reason I asked the question. Are we really thinking about the young people? Are we preparing them for that leadership? I've scouted, I've flipped through the pages of the National Education Policy. I am looking at the objectives, not a word of technology. And not anything, in my opinion, I could be wrong. Nothing seemingly futuristic. So it leads me to ask the question again. Are we thinking about preparing these young people really for the leadership we want them to take?
Well, I don't want to say yes or no, but what we have is what I call it's tokenism. You could see that this is not well thought out, and a lot of people, what they do for votes. I mean, there's a state that is launching something they call it youth policy. I don't want to mention names. You could tell that this is about votes, but let's look at a concept of leading from the back. I don't want us to blame government in all of it, because we may just spend the whole day doing that and we won't get out anything. So, leading from the back. Who is providing some parallel thinking? Who is providing, alternative narrative that could help us move forward? You get it? Now, if you know and you play within the private sector, you understand the energy, the resources that is resident within the youth community. What are you doing as an organization? Do you have a policy that encourages scholarship? Do you have a policy that encourages capacity development internship? There are companies that are run by guys who have been privileged, either through the family they come from, as a result of the family they come from, or they benefited from government largesse and stuff, and now they are standing. Can you, as a CEO, can you come up with a policy that allows your company to engage 20 kids on internship? That is youth development. That is filling the gap. Can you sponsor an athletics competition that brings together 2,000 young people every year? That is youth development.
You've just touched a raw nerve there. Because an oil company used to do that.
Good.
And it was pushed into oblivion from what we hear.
Now, you see, let's throw up some figures here. Jamaica. Everybody's talking about Jamaica. Jamaica organizes a secondary school sports competition that brings in close to 30,000 athletes nationally every year. The attendance is huge. It's like the Super Eagles going to play, and that's the kind of followership it enjoys. So the question is, why won't such a country be reaping the fruits today? So my take is, if the government is not, quote unquote, hasn't got the vision, even though we have the National Youth Policy, we have the National Youth Commission, we have the National Sports for all of that. What can individuals do who actually know? Do you know when Toby Amuson break the Amuson when she broke the goal and when she broke that record, that was a guy I know so well. He runs an organization where they have a policy. They don't accept anybody who's posted there on National Youth Service. They don't accept people, kids who want to do their internship. And he was congratulating Toby. And I said, dude, this is hypocrisy. You don't accept kids who come in for internship and young people who come for NYC. He said, well, we've gotten our fingers burnt. No, that's not the way to go about it. You can create a system where when these people come in, they live better. You get it? That is youth development from a personal perspective. You run a church, you run a mosque, you run whatever it is. Do you have a vision for the young people in your system? So we can't, because there's a way we develop ourselves from the back door. The government will have no choice
I agree.
than to start to listen to us.
Yeah. Mr. Noto, Mr. Hilaja mentioned entrepreneurship. I want to bring in again, Ayo has already done, the issue of the education which we are imparting to our children. When I went to university, the belief was that we were being trained for the civil service. We didn't, I can say, without fear of contradiction, that we were not trained
For the real world.
I was skewed towards entrepreneurship at all. We were trained to beg to apply. So is that education changing in any way these days so that the children are actually taught how to become entrepreneurs and not how to beg to apply when they finish school?
If we were to look at the statistics of the transition in the educational system out of school children in the last 1 year, it becomes extremely worrisome. From 10.5 million in last year, currently UNICEF states that it's currently 18.5 million out of school children, which becomes extremely worrisome. So if you look at the first the relevant point we've been discussed now is the education. So we need to review the concept of our educational system. So what does this translate into? The first stage of the development of the child the emphasis should be based on character development. If you look at what is obtainable in most schools in the UK, at grade 1 to grade 6 level, there's usually a general gift or reward being given to best in kindness. What does this translate into? It gives the development in the child the sense of empathy, the sense of patriotism. So as the child grows up, the next phase, if you're reviewing our educational system, we take it in different phases. The first phase should be for the character development of the child, which gives the child a sense of empathy. If you look at what is obtainable across the country, there's a level of doubt, a level of insecurity. The sense of empathy among the citizens, it's no longer there because we have failed, our educational system have failed in imbibing these values into the growing child. So when it comes to this space, the home and the state plays significant role. So the second phase of the educational development now should go into the talent recognition of the child. As every child is growing, some would show a level of interest in education, in the academia, while some would show interest in sport, otherwise. So the state should give a significant level of recognition to.
Oh dear. But I'm sure that we'll get him back. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
If you see the background he's setting there, it tells you that education is not about schools.
No.
But when we talk about education here, everybody focuses on school.
Academic education. Mm.
So what we're doing here is education. What they're doing at Agege Stadium is education. Talent management is one area that we have simply left. If you want to win gold in the next Olympics, for instance, do you have enough coaches?
Mm. Because we're running out of time, let me ask this question. Sorry, Mr. Akimajan. He mentioned, Engineer Onotu mentioned something about the family, the home, having a crucial role to play in all this matter.
Yep.
Okay, I understand that Engineer Onotu is back. I'll come back to you. You've taken us on a trajectory, and I'd like to follow it for a bit. Where is the place of culture here? Now, because that's where that's the bedrock of everything. Cultures, tradition, ways of the people, and all those things. Because the primary school child is coming from that base, and that's the guy, that's the fellow that Tosin Jegede sang "We Are the Leaders of Tomorrow" for many years ago. Now, the Yoruba child, the southeastern child, the northern child that Engineer Onotu is joining us, if you can hazard for us some perspectives about today's young person, what they think about, how they think, because most of the time when we're having these conversations down south, most people don't understand the mindset of what goes on in the north. The intention of the National Youth Service Corps, I'm not sure, has been able to galvanize that orientation. So give us some perspectives of the understanding that people have or do not have about the southeasterner, about the southwesterner, and about the northerner, Engineer Onotu. Let's start with you, Mr. Akinaja.
Okay, so I actually served in northern Nigeria.
Oh, wonderful.
And at the point I knew I was going to teach, that I just knew I would do something around teaching, was there was a project going on where I served, and we were asked to go and teach farmers computer appreciation. And I entered the class, and my boss was like, let me see how you're going to teach these people tall order computer, how to use the Microsoft Word. When I was done, after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, they gave me 2 bars of yam as a gift. I was like, whoa, we liked. You taught us well.
Farmers.
Yes, you taught us well. We enjoyed it. Yes, they kept them computer and they learned how to use it. What that made me understand is we are too quick to judge what we think a person wants, can do, and cannot do. That's just like the South, how we look at they don't want to go to school. Not really. It's all about how a person sees you about to make them nobody doesn't want to be a better person. That's the lies they've always told us. Oh, don't engage them. They're not interested. That's not true. That's not correct. If you create a path that where I am today, I'm not going to have to scavenge for food. I'll be able to feed myself and feed 12 others. I will refuse that. Okay? That's also some form of education. Mind orientation. Control. It's a control mechanism to say, oh, this is what you can and this is what you cannot do. Okay? And he spoke about education. I'm very passionate about education. And
I know the three of you are passionate about education.
It's strange that, let me use states in the Southwest, that primary school education for public schools are run by a local government. How can you let out early child education and not pay attention to it? If you go to certain states, the public primary schools are more dilapidated than the secondary schools. What does that tell you? Because of whose hands early child education is in.
I mean, that's the biggest tragedy.
How can you let out or leave such crucial years? In fact, I feel that's where more investment by government.
The challenge there, Minister Akilaja, is it was not always like that. The local government system today, many say, is not funded, is not encouraged. Back in time, I've cited this example to Alero many times, that when the environmental officers went to the houses, we don't have them anymore. Yes, the education officers who don't go to schools, someone is coming to your father's house with a cane. In fact, I think recently I heard someone say, if a child does not go to school, the father will go to jail. So if perhaps that's the challenge, the funding of the local government system. Anyway, you've spoken to that. We're running out of time. Yes, Dr. Let me dash you title today. Same thing, culture from the Southeast, or perceptions and all of that.
I talked about the strength, the peculiarity of each place and how that can be harnessed. So it becomes a comparative advantage. Now, within the Southeast, I don't have a grip of the South, but what I know very well is that enterprise is something that runs in the blood of the average Southeasterner. Ironically, we're all, I don't know, was that deliberate? Anyway, so now, if you are not running a business per se, you're not into micro and selling, you should be in school. And there are guys who've been able to combine both. They went to school and then they went into trading. And then the apprenticeship system, which is age-long, is still there. Just that, because young people still are beginning to run away from, like I said, choky gatekeeping that makes it difficult for them to give expression to whatever they carry. I think we should be able to relax that system in a way that you reduce the number of years you spend serving your orga, so to speak. So why should you spend 8 years? So the man, you join the man at 16 and you spend 8 years. That is about
24, 25. Yeah.
You get it. Why don't we make it 4 or 5 so that by the time his mate is coming out of university, he's done learning.
Yeah, but this apprenticeship is not formal. Exactly. It depends on the individual, how long you spend under apprenticeship.
How quickly you can learn.
Yes.
It is not formal, but it has become institutionalized. So mothers take their children to this people.
So
an MOU is signed. Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes. You don't just, no. You enter into an understanding that is reading, some in black and white, some based on cola nuts, palm wine. And yes.
And Kingsley, because of this apprenticeship system, which has thrived over the years in the Southeast, a lot of young people didn't want to go to school, But we learned that that trend was reversing. They would go to school first and then go into business. So how is that working out now?
But there's something, not everybody, and I want to say this so I don't have to deny it.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer again.
You know, we're in the season of denial. Not everybody need to go past early childhood education, formally. Any early childhood. In other words,
which is what, SS3?
No, which is primary and
primary, nursery,
and
primary 6,
early secondary.
Yes.
Okay, JS3.
Primary and early secondary.
Yeah.
Once you're done, and you feel, come on, I don't have the aptitude to go beyond this point.
Go learn a trade.
Yeah, rather than attrition. You know, attrition is you drop out of school and you start to hustle. But this, you need not hustle.
How you discover the person who is who needs to transit? That's another conversation.
No, it's very simple. The guy will tell you, I don't tire. And most times, it's a function of the background, you know. If the background is poor, they can't go beyond secondary.
One of the things that you need to get, the stigmatization. Me, I go to school, you didn't go. You know how these things are. Guys, you know how these things are. But anyway, let me ask Engineer Onotu. So give us your perspective as well, perhaps things that, why are you smiling? You're smiling. Anyway, give us your understanding or perception that people need to doctor about this whole conversation we're having around cultural influence from the north to the south and stuff like that, especially from your perspective as a northerner.
Yes, there's a myth I want to debunk. You see, one fundamental of being a northerner, ideally, education is a top priority at any stage, you know, because fundamentally, the first phase of the development of any average northerner is supposed to be on the part of seeking knowledge. So knowledge becomes a top priority. That's first phase. Let me give you an example. Recently, I was at a Fulani settlement, you know, somewhere within Abuja. They've been there for the last 80 years. And gradually development started moving them out of their space. And currently they occupy a very, very small, insignificant mass of the land because development has taken hold of the entire area. So I went there with a foundation, and the foundation, what they do is that they create a mini educational system for the young Fulani boys. So what I could recognize was the eagerness of these young boys, of these young Fulani boys. They were so eager to learn. While I was there, the thing that hit me the most was the failure of the state. You see, the willingness to learn might be there. If there is no structure to enhance the development, it becomes a problem. So what I did was to tell them, I gave them a level of hope that, you see, what the notion that almost everyone have outside those that know what an average Fulani man is banditry or herdsmen or whatsoever. So I gave them the sense of hope that, you know, what I've seen so far is inspirational. So I told them that, okay, I need just 20 names that we're going to try and create a level of empowerment scheme for 20 out of the list. To my surprise, yesterday, I got over 200 names. What does this mean? That means there is willingness amongst this group to learn. And now the system, technically or strategically, has failed them. You see, imagine the level of injustice being done to them. They've occupied the land for the last 80 years, and gradually they have been chased out of their land. So this can even prompt things that ideally they wouldn't want to do. So I think in line with this, the first thing we need to get into our level of understanding is being a northerner. The number one thing that is key, that is fundamental, is seeking knowledge. So we should not think that it's culturally, if you're from the north, you shouldn't be educated. No, it is mandatory, you know, and it is the foundation that every development relies on. Education gives hope to any nation. So this is my own view from the north, and I think we need to, you know, have a level of evaluation.
I hope that conversation, that understanding is communicated to the, what's the word we use? Top echelon in the north. We wanted to quickly, because I saw you were confirming what he was saying.
Yes, I said it, that you can't tell a person what a person can and cannot do because of your own interests.
Yes.
Okay, don't tell us they don't want. That's not correct.
Conviction.
Yes, you and you do. I'm going to just say this. I tell people, those who enjoy the way Nigeria is structured understand Nigeria more than those who want to change Nigeria. So they thrive on our black spots. They thrive on our ignorance of certain happenings. They thrive on our ignorance of the things that want to happen. People who in the South who have not traveled to the North have notions of the North. You have to go there. You have to engage them. Yeah. So I think more enlightenment about how we are positioned as a people.
Isn't that what the National Youth Service was all about?
Well, maybe that's the next thing to inspect some of the time going forward. We have to thank you, gentlemen, for being a part of our conversation this morning. It was International Youth Day yesterday. Let's take this message forward and know that at the end of the day, youths are not. This is the tomorrow we spoke about yesterday. Oludare Akinlaja, development consultant, thank you so much for your time this morning. Truly appreciate your perspectives. Kingsley Obom-Ebulem, founder of the Talent Hub, again, thank you for your time. As well as engineer Mohammed Onotu. MNSE, thank you so much for being a part of our conversation this morning and the shocking discovery you've just giving us. Truly appreciate it. So many people may not know that. And that's how we create Nigeria for all. We're back after now to talk about something else. About us this time. Stay with us.